So number 2 is the money myth. So I start figuring out, okay, none of that is bullshit. What else is going on? I'm political science, right? I did that, and you're supposed to learn about government. And I realized I didn't know anything about money because when I went to finance at McGill, I was a CPA, and I learned stuff about finance, and then I came across this documentary called The Wizard of Oz, basically. And it's about the fact that the Wizard of Oz story is an allegory for the financial system. Incredible documentary. And I find out that my understanding of the monetary system is completely flawed. Like the foundation, it's like I went to McGill and they taught me how to build the top, but we never looked at the foundation of the system. Quite messed up. So, what is money when we get down to it? So we need to trade. Can't trade donkeys, right? Kind of hard. So we need a medium of exchange, and that's what money is to begin with. After that, it's a system of trust, right? Because we've seen currencies come and go through history, if you study monetary history. Money always doesn't last. Depends on our trust. You agree that this little piece of paper is going to be worth $5 or $10 or whatever it is. When that trust is lost, it has no value because it's just a piece of paper, right? Electronic currencies are scarier that way. So our monetary system is based on trust, and that accumulation of trust between individuals makes the system work, right? So I want to read from you a couple sections on money. And I'm just going to do a couple because it's a very long history of money that's in here. But Benjamin Franklin said, "In the colonies we were issued our own money. It is called colonial script. We control its purchasing power and we have no interest to pay to no one." This is after he was visiting the poorhouses in England. They asked him how they handled their poor. America didn't have any at that time because they were creating their own money and putting it to good use. So, here's a quote. "It is advisable to do all in your power to sustain such prominent daily and weekly newspapers, especially the agricultural and religious press, as will oppose the greenback issue of paper money." So at this time the United States wants to issue another greenback at another point in time. It's 1877. Their own currency, right? "To repeal the act creating banknotes or to restore to circulation the government issues of money will be to provide the people with money and will therefore seriously affect our individual profits as bankers and lenders. See your congressman at once and engage him to support the interests that we may control legislation." James Buell of the American Bankers Association in 1877. So just to give you an idea, this is, you don't find this stuff in print anymore, but the same stuff is happening. It's the same exercise, history is repeating itself. "Whomever controls the volume of money in any country is absolutely master of all industry and commerce. And when you realize that the entire system is easily controlled, one way or another, by a few powerful men at the top, you will not have to be told how a period of inflation and depression originate." 1881, President James Garfield. He was killed a couple weeks later, as were any president who actually tried to do anything about that. 1894, "We will not renew our loans under any consideration. On September 1st, we will demand our money. We will foreclose and become mortgagees in possession. We can take 2/3 of the farms west of the Mississippi and thousands in the east of the Mississippi at our own price. Then the farmers will become tenants as in England." American Bankers Association. "The silver certificates and treasury bonds, that is to say, all the government money, must be retired, and interest-bearing national bank notes made the only money. You will once retire 1/3 of your circulation, your paper money, and call in 1/2 of your loans. Be careful to make any money among your patrons, especially among influential businessmen. The future of our debt-based money system depends upon immediate action, as there is an increasing sentiment in favor of government legal tender notes and silver coinage." So at this point in the 1890s, there's a battle for the monetary system in the United States, whether the government issues money or whether the government borrows money from international bankers, right? "We must keep the people busy with political antagonisms. We will therefore speed up the question of reform on tariffs within the Democratic Party, and will put the spotlight on the question of protection for the Republican Party. By dividing the electorate this way, we will be able to have them spending their energies and struggling amongst themselves on questions that for us have no important consequence." That's a taste of some of the things you can find reading about the history of money and what goes on behind the scenes. Back then, they actually had a magazine, but people didn't read that much, and especially didn't read those magazines. So, in industry, what I do is I help them get more efficient, right? So I'll come in and I'll be bringing the team and we'll take a look at the processes, we'll analyze manufacturing processes, we'll take a look and see how we can optimize them. And always that leads to cuts. Because efficiency means we're trying to do more with less. Either automation, technology, just business processes. And if you look at the graph on the left, what you see is real manufacturing output. So real manufacturing output in the last, we're looking 60 years, has gone up 7 times. Meaning that as populations, we are producing 7 times more per person than they were back in 1950. So then the question arises, well, let's say my grandparents had a home and had a car. Do I have 7 homes? Do I have 7 cars? No. The graph on the right is average for hourly earnings in $2,008. So that shows that between 1970 to 2008, basically, it was almost a 10% reduction in real wages over that period of time. If I look at savings rates, they've gone down drastically. If I look at total household debt, it's gone up. So the message is clear, those trends are continuing, they're not getting any better, they're not going to get any better soon, because the system isn't changing. The system's doing what it is designed to do, which is transfer wealth. So this shows you the wealthiest 20% of Americans own 84.6%. That's crazy. You're a group of people, and you're like this group here, and you say that 20% of this room own 84% of what we're producing is what this is saying, right? That's not the bad news. The bad news is who owns the system that's consolidated. When you hear about the richest men in the world, stuff, let me tell you, they're not even close to the most powerful people in the world. Not even close. It's the people who own the system that have real power. Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, these people have lots of money. They're super rich, probably overly rich, but not rich like the people who own the system. So you have to ask yourself, who holds the debt, right? So I go through all the balance sheets of each nation, and I figure, okay, there's $55 trillion in debt going from the Western nations, the US, Canada, and some dollars. $55 trillion. Who has the money? Who lends $55 trillion out to the United States, the richest country in the world, right? Is it South Africa? Is it South America? My understanding is they're not doing all that great either. So where's it come from? China, they own America. China's $1.5 trillion, I'd say. Yesterday, I think it's down to $1 trillion. It's peanuts. It's not the real deal. So we're pitched that this thing called capitalism is part of our freedom, and that's what makes us great, industrious people. But when you look at the definition of capitalism, it seems owns the means of production, which are equipment and labor. So it's the same thing as being a feudal lord, as far as I'm concerned. It's bringing us back to times of ancient England, right? So today we just call them shareholders and corporations, really. And the notion of a free market is actually lost in our discussions today. It's capitalism, to change what used to be free market, where you had the liberty to freely trade between individuals. Bankers don't like free markets, and if you don't believe me, read David Rockefeller's memoirs. He believes in monopolies, quite clear. So the reason I bring up freedom and capitalism is because they're not the same. Free market is not the same as capitalism. And one thing that we need to understand through the history of money is that free markets and freedom brings prosperity to people. Would you rather live in North Korea or in America, which is freer? When you look at how people interact with stuff in a tyrannical society versus a freedom-based society, it's a hell of a lot better. It's better for the planet and everything else. So we're looking at free trade. Is that a free market? The answer is no. When they do free trade deals, I can't go and ship and order stuff back and forth from the United States. My Prime Minister, Brian Mulroney, signed a free trade agreement. This is a man who used to take cash and ground envelopes, and so it's different. It's corporate free trade. It's not humans trading one-to-one. It's totally bogus. And so if I look at the Free Trade Act of North America, the government then came back and said to us 10 years later, well, this is the impact of doing that agreement had. Here's the benefit for you. Nobody's done that work, except for a guy named Mel Hurt did. He said the truth about Canada. He did it about 6 years ago, I think. He goes through all the OECD data that shows the impact. such as manufacturing has disappeared from Canada. Massive reductions of the high-paying jobs being replaced with low-paying jobs. And I think of that, and I think of, Trudeau wants to sign a TPP. Here's this kid, he's going to sign his big deal in his lifetime. Well, China has a lot more people than us, 1.4 billion, making $5,000 a year. We're 35 million Canadians, $49,000 average per year. I take those two and I say, what if we mix those? What's the average going to come out to be? I don't think the average is going to be higher than 49,000 guys. I really don't think it's going to average up above that. Quite frankly, it's going to average way, way below that. So this is a discussion you will not hear in your mainstream news, I can guarantee you that. Abe Lincoln was around when the notion of a corporation was taking effect in the United States. And he wrote a memo saying that it's one of his biggest worries was this notion of a corporation and what it could do in our court system. The fact that we are giving legal rights to this artificial creation that had no moral obligations in society. He thought there's something not right here and it puts us at risk. And even predicted that it could aggregate, it would be a system for aggregating wealth, this notion of a corporation. The other point is taxes. So, up until 1913, Americans kept their earnings. 1913, the Federal Reserve was created, and then into World War I, all of a sudden we had to pay 1% tax, was the pitch to the American people. This is people who fought for their independence when we came for taxation, right? So, despite the fact that they didn't pay a bunch of taxes, they still had cities, cars, buses, schools, and everything else and roads. So what gives? Because I've been told since I was born, and since I went to science and into CPA, that our society cannot possibly function without taxes. Our taxes pay for all this apparently. Well, that's pure horseshit. And when you realize that, taxation is theft, people are going to get pissed off more and more. We're seeing it more and more on the net. If you monitor the memes that are going around, people are waking up and this little meme is just flying around. So, all of these things create illness in our financial system. Taxation is theft. In the United States, though, taxation is said to be voluntary. If you see a congressman before the courts or for a commission, he'll never say you have to pay taxes. Taxes in the United States are voluntary by law. But as soon as you file your tax form, you're entering into an agreement to pay taxes, and then they can get you.
He said that the handling of those tax-exempt applications in that process at the IRS was outrageous and intolerable. No excuse. And as much as we know that the folks at IRS have a thankless job because they have to go and tell their fellow Americans that they may be audited or they have to do this work understaffed, we have to maintain the confidence in the system because it's a voluntary system of payment of our taxes. Agreed. And so you're right, it was a foolish mistake, but the president's even more correct that it was outrageous and intolerable. Now, let me also focus on something, Mr. George, you said. When you were asked, was there any finding or evidence of political motivation here? You said no.
That's correct, sir.
And so what we find is a situation where inexcusable activity took place because it erodes the confidence of the American people in a system where they participate voluntarily. And if there's a place in public service where you have to have the highest level of conduct and standards, it's at the IRS. And so, Mr. Miller, I think it's unfortunate for those who are in positions of authority, but the buck has to stop somewhere, and I think that's exactly what we're saying. That should not diminish the good work that has been done by anyone within the IRS over the years. And so I hope you understand that you are here today talking to us because we need to get to the bottom of this. We need to clean up and clear out so we can go back to the business of making sure that people respect the fact that we have a voluntary system of paying our taxes.
So there's a lot of people in the United States that don't pay taxes because they've learned from their families that this is the law, right? They're coming down on them. They don't like that. So, but the idea that another group of people can take somebody's stuff away from them for the good of the greater good, I mean, That's theft, that's the way you look at it. I mean, somebody wants to do that, they think I'm doing good, you have more stuff than that, so I'm gonna take from you. We as a group are deciding that, the reallocation of assets, it's still theft at the end of the day. You're giving somebody the right to steal. Designed obsolescence. Anybody here have a light bulb in their home? There's a light bulb documentary where you can learn about designed obsolescence. So light bulbs were designed to fail so that the company, the corporation, could profit by selling more light bulbs. There's a light bulb in the Guinness Book of World Records that's still on. I think it's 150 years old now. The patent for a long-lasting light bulb is buried, right? And this is all products. The inkjet printers that we have that fail, well, Russians looked into the EEPROM chips and figured out that the coding set for it to fail. And they just rewrite the codes and they're getting up these old printers and stuff. And so we're designing things. We're saying the environment's so important, yet our corporations and the need to create profit are making these bad decisions for our environment and everything else. It's pretty nasty. We have the derivatives. The guy who invented the notion of a derivative is a financial instrument where you say this is derived from, there's that, and I'm making a bet on that. I'm going to make a bet that goes up or down, depending on that we have. My asset's going to go up or down. I'm going to get a payoff. It's like making Vegas chips real. All of a sudden, Vegas chips can become part of the economy. There's no basis for creation of value in the economy by these bets. It's a disaster. The derivatives markets are valuing from $600 to $800 trillion. What that means is that a few people control these. None of us in this room control derivatives, their valuations and where they're positioned. It allows massive transfers of wealth instantaneously. So the need for consumption to make the system move. How does that balance with our planet, right? Because the capitalist system, the share, everything has to go up, and we have to consume more in order for it to work. Yet we have a planet that's finite. We have barriers to entry through the capitalist system. So a corporation doesn't want competition. So by their nature, they have to work to keep competitors out. So they'll work for politicians and create artificial barriers to entry. You can't sell raw milk to your neighbor. You know? Simple as that. It's a barrier to entry. It has to be pasteurized. It has to go through a big process. The patent system, we're going to come back to that one. So here are some top industries in the United States. If I take an example, Federal Reserve Complex, or the banking. Military-industrial complex is massive. Pharmaceutical industry is massive. I rarely hear about crimes in those industries, yet they're the most massive industries. You'll hear about people robbing each other and stuff like that, or getting arrested for a couple bucks here and there, but it is so rare it isn't funny. So if you want to go ahead and invest in the stock market, your stockbroker's going to say, well, you know, stock market goes up and over time you can show that you're going to make money. But when you learn that there's derivatives at play, and then when you learn that there's things like the plunge protection team, Ronald Reagan made this, and we learned about it in 2006. So Ronald Reagan was back in 1982. So if the powers that be in Washington determine that the stock market is taking a dive and they want to keep it, rather than relying on a free market to stabilize the market or let it do what it does, they come in behind and they pump in billions of dollars where they want. So if that's so, how do they pump in those billions of dollars? Goldman Sachs, off they go, Caymans, and they start funneling money in, and they prop it up. So stock could be diving, a sector could be oil or whatever, gold, whatever. They say, we got to prop that up. So it's a fixed game, right? It's a fixed system. It makes no sense. And that's why you will see that a bunch of people lose money in 1 year, but there'll be this amazing trader for Morgan or Chase or whoever else who did fantastic. He's so brilliant. They gave him $1 billion to place some money, and then he bet the rest of his house on it. Wealth distribution. So we have this consolidation factor happen to the system. This was designed to consolidate wealth. And what the reality is in our system, there's $1 for every vote. You know, you're watching the U.S. elections right now. It's billions being spent to buy advertising and everything else. How can we think that we're going to have freedom and democracy and all that stuff if we have such a big difference in wealth between the people? So we have three primary drivers of consolidation. We have taxation, we have this international banking Ponzi scheme, and we have the laws surrounding the corporations. Three factors. So if we don't fix those, the system's not going to change. Financial principles. So wealth transfer from the Commonwealth, not for benefiting the general population. You can't have free trade with economies where you don't have equivalent currencies. You're going to free trade with China and they control their currency. How's that going to work out for us as Canadians? It makes absolutely no sense. You control the value of the currency, you can shift stuff around. Whatever the dollars are being applied to, that's what you get in the economy. So if our economy and our government's spending on missiles and bombs, then you're just going to get destruction. This notion in university where we're doing economic courses, and you're just looking at a high level economic trends and stuff, you have to ask the qualitative questions. What's the money going into to bring value to us as citizens in the future? It's that simple. So you go to university and you learn all these complicated formulas and stuff, but then you gotta take a step back and go, hey, let's cut through this here. What's the reality of what's going on? So, a couple solutions that have to be looked at for the monetary system, and when we're looking at what we need to change. And number one is who issues money. So right now in Canada, I grew up thinking the Canadian government issues money. That's what they taught me in school. That's what they taught me in both degrees. I found out later that in Canada, our government does not issue money. Since 1974, our government borrows money from an international banking group. And this happened under Pierre Trudeau. Pierre Trudeau, Justin's father, without telling the Canadian public, without it going anywhere, that this happened. I don't know if so you don't join the G8 or what the hell the story was. But what that means is before, when we would borrow money from our government, Bank of Canada, and we as Canadians paid interest for anything that was happening, the province was paying interest on something, that interest went back, and then that interest could be reapplied for social services, right? It was our money. Great system. Canada built all kinds of stuff. Population of 22, 24 million, railways across the mountains, blasting holes through the Rockies, piers, Navy, one of the biggest navies after the end of World War II for such a small population, St. Lawrence waterways. These are massive construction projects that we haven't seen. I haven't seen in my lifetime. And, you know, in 1974, the debt was nothing. It was peanuts. We've now paid $1 trillion so far between then and now. So, who issues the money is important, and the rationale for the quantity. The bankers would trick the people and say, if you don't take control, and your politicians, what your politicians are going to do is they're going to offer everybody a little candy here. And say, if you don't want to work, we're going to offer you social aid. And so that's going to increase the amount of money that they're going to borrow, or they're going to print. And if there's too much money printed, then it's going to devalue the money, and the money you've kept will be worth less because you're politicians. And that's the pitch they always gave for saying, don't let the government print money. It needs to be us, the bankers. We are fiscally responsible. We are bankers. That was the pitch. And this has been going on for centuries now. Well, since 1696, I guess. So the rationale for the quantity of money being printed, that has to be fixed too. How it's introduced into the system, that's the third important factor. So you say your government's going to take it, how do they put it into the system to what needs? Is it for war? Is it for social programs? Is it for capital infrastructure? If you go and you buy a bunch of stuff that's perishable, the money's gone. If you build or you buy tractors and they go for farming, then that creates value forward. So it's that kind of spending that we have to be able to look at with our politicians to figure out the best way to put the money into play. So at the end of the day, the politicians answer the people with the money, and those people are no longer the Canadian people since 1974, it's international bankers. Right now there's a court case, Commerce versus the Bank of Canada. I got a video on the website and YouTube channel. They've been going out a long time. And the basis of the court case is the fact that, by law, the government of Canada is not exercising its duties, the Bank of Canada. The Minister of Finance is not allowed to borrow money from international bankers. He's supposed to be using the Bank of Canada. The case is all based around that. But they're not doing the right job as stated in the charter. Paul Hellyer, Honorable Paul Hellyer, he's a politician that served the longest in the Privy Council. He was Chief of Defence of Canada. He started around 1949, I guess. He's 92 years old now. And he's still in politics. He put out a book in 2014 about the banking situation. And we're going to talk about him again later. But he's putting out a video, I think this week. We'll try and get up on the site. He's doing a rebuttal to the budget, the Liberal federal budget. And he's stating what it would look like under the Bank of Canada had it not changed. So this was a man who was there prior to 1974. He quit Pierre Trudeau's cabinet in 1972. So he knows how it worked before. So this is a guy who has experience, the know-how. He's saying, if we've done this, this is what it would look like our budget today. So that's coming out. People working.